Hello, everyone. This is Highlander from MTG Cardsmith, and we're doing another custom Magic the Gathering card review. And today we're reviewing another card by our friend Arceus for his set, Euphoria. I don't think it's pronounced that way, but that's what I'm going to call it. We got another common. I love commons. Let's see what we got going on here. This is a Cavalry Mystic. Cavalry Mystic. I would imagine a Cavalry Mystic would be on a horse, but let's see what we got going on here. This is another 4 mana. This is a 4 mana 2/2. Okay, pretty bad stats for the cost. You wouldn't really ever play a 4 mana 2/2 unless it had a good ability, so maybe it does. Let's see what we got here. Envision, 2 and a white. You may cast this face up. You may cast this face up card from exile for its Envision cost. You may cast this face up card from exile for its Envision cost. Let's read the rest of this. When Cavalry Mystic enters the battlefield, creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. So the thing that's throwing me off here is this face up part. I'm guessing what this means is you can cast this card from exile as long as it's face up, essentially. I think. The wording's kind of strange here. You may cast this face up card from exile for its Envision cost. That's kind of strange. What did I just do? Sorry. I would expect it to be worded maybe something like this. You may cast this card from exile for its Envision cost as long as it's face up. Something like that would work, I think. The wording's a little strange outside of that. So anyway, this card works with our Felidar Sovereign that we, or no, not Felidar Sovereign, Felidar, Honored Felidar that we saw last review. And when it enters the battlefield, creatures you control get +1/+1. Okay, so basically, let's ignore the Envision for a moment, right? We've got a 4 mana 2/2, and when it enters the battlefield, all your creatures get +1/+1 until end of turn. I mean, that's a decent effect, but I don't know if it makes up for playing a 4 mana 2/2. The thing about giving all your creatures +1/+1 is that you already need to have a board, essentially, right? If you have like one other creature with this, then you're basically playing a subpar creature and you're giving one of your creatures +1/+1 until end of turn, right? That's not very good. If you play this with 2 creatures, then you get, again, you know, a subpar body, and you're giving +1/+1 to 2 creatures, and that's still kind of weak if you ask me. So you really need to like be giving this to 3 or more creatures, and preferably creatures with evasion, for this to really pay off for, you know, for a card like this. Now, one thing I'm curious about is how much this effect would cost on like a sorcery. So let's see if we can find something like that. Creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. White. And let's make this a sorcery. Let's see how much we got here. So these are all pretty old cards. Creatures you can control and gain vigilance. Yeah, these are old cards. So it's kind of hard to gauge, but let's see. Let's take this type line away. Okay, so I mean, this is a guy. Hold on. Let me sort by release date. Okay, so here's like a 2 mana card that does this at instant speed, and also has another effect as well. Here's another same thing, like 2 mana card with upside, essentially. I mean, this guy at least has a relevant body. So you're looking at like probably 1 to 1.5 mana for like this effect generally. So that means that this card is definitely undercosted, probably for this or excuse me, overcosted for this body and this effect. If this was a 3/3, then we're kind of talking a little bit, because then your body starts becoming a little relevant. Now, at 3 mana, when you're casting it from exile, I mean, 3 mana is certainly better, but a 3 mana 2/2 is still not that exciting, right? And it sort of has the same issues as this right here, right? You really want to have like at least 3 or more creatures in play when you cast this, to really get the value out of it. So, oops, sorry, I'm still getting used to this little marking tool here. So like, it's still not that exciting, but you can cast it from exile, which means, I mean, in the case of Honored Felidar, it's card advantage, right? So that's nice. And I'm assuming that effect probably shows up other places in the set. At least I would hope so. The other thing that, okay, one thing that worries me a little bit about this is, you know, generally messing with cards in exile is something that you want to be really careful with. You know, exile is meant to be not another zone for you to interact with. It's meant to be a remove from the game zone, right? Now, a lot of cards let you do things from exile, but generally those are like special case exiles. So, like for an example, if we look at Foretell, right? Why did I just do that? Why did I just do that? Foretell. If you look at Foretell, right, you can cast this card from exile, but it's like a special exile because you have to pay 2 exile this card and then cast it on a later turn, right? So, you know, Foretell cards can only be cast if they've been foretold. If you've paid this cost, right? Or excuse me, if you've paid the 2. So, for example, if you cast Swords to Plowshares on Battle Mammoth, you can't play it from exile for 4, right? It's been foretold, and the only reason you'd be able to play it is because it's been foretold, right? So that's like one example of many. Now here, this is just saying from no matter how it's been exiled, you can cast it. And I mean, I get why, right? Because we just saw the dude, the Felidar, and this obviously works really nicely with the Felidar. But you have to, I think you have to be kind of careful with this type of a thing. I mean, like, this particular creature is not going to, like, you know, break anything. I mean, this is, in my opinion, this is a pretty weak card. I mean, really the only thing that's like sort of interesting about this card is the fact that you can cast it from exile. So like you could potentially recast it if you have ways to exile it, or if it gets exiled. But you know your opponent's not going to be exiling this thing because you'll just be able to bring it back, right? But I don't know. You know, I kind of see this done a lot, right? Because casting, you know, doing things with exile, I see a lot of designers mess with that because it's sort of something you don't really see in Magic. It's sort of something that's a way to create like a unique effect. And I've certainly done it myself. But I think generally you should stay away from that. I think that, you know, exile should be a zone where things just go away. That's its purpose, you know. Now, if this had some other clause on it, like for example, when we looked at the Felidar, if that card said exile cards and put like a certain type of counter on them, for example, and then this envision would be you can cast it as, you know, from exile if it has an X counter on it, I would be a little happier with that, because then it's sort of a conditional thing, right? It's sort of comboing with an effect. I mean, that's maybe not the most you know, elegant way to do it, but I think you understand what I'm trying to say. I would prefer that over this. But that being said, you know, I still... So this card I like a lot less than the Sovereign. The Envision thing is part of it, but the other part is that this card is just pretty underwhelming. I mean, a 4-mana 2/2 that buffs all your creatures is like, I would probably never play that in limited, unless I was playing like a super heavy duty go wide deck, and I really wanted this effect, right? But this is like this is like a pretty bad way to get this effect. The other thing is if there are ways to like exile this thing from the battlefield, then it's a slightly different story. See, this another crazy thing about this is this interacts really strangely, excuse me, with other cards. Like, for example, if we look at Glimmerpoint Stag, it's just the one that came to mind. So Glimmerpoint Stag says, when it enters the battlefield, exile another target permanent. Return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. So if you, I mean, this would obviously require a lot of mana, but this is just an example. If you Glimmerpoint Stag your own Cavalry Mystic, you can then recast it. I don't know why you would do that, though. That doesn't really make any sense. I mean, you could. It would be weird because it's going to come back anyway. So that's kind of a bad example. But there's like kind of like weird interactions like that when you start messing with the exile zone. So yeah. The Cavalry Mystic, I think I want to give this one I'm going to give this one a 6 out of 10. I think it's pretty weak. It's going for something kind of novel, even though this is sort of something I've seen, I've seen a lot of designers play around with this space of, being able to manipulate things that are exiled. So yeah, I'll give it a 6 out of 10. I think this card is pretty weak. I mean, from like a design standpoint, I mean, so Wizards, this is kind of what I'm struggling with. Wizards makes weak commons, right? They do. Now, I don't know if they intend to make those commons weak or not. They used to do that intentionally, right? They used to make commons that are weak because I think their reasoning behind it was that it sort of helped new players learn what's good and what's bad, I think. But I'm pretty sure they've stopped doing that generally. In at least in the recent limited sets, almost all of the cards have been like playable, right? I mean, some of them are not exciting, and there's better cards out there, right? There's certainly always going to be bad, cards that are worse than other cards, and there's always going to be a worst card of the set, right? But they don't make cards like Come on. What am I doing? Oh, yeah. Sorry, everyone. Figuring this out. They don't make cards like Hunted Ghoul anymore, which is just like an abysmally bad card. A 1-mana 1/2 that can't block humans. Like, why would you ever play this card? This card's just clearly terrible. So, yeah. So I don't really know if they intend to make cards that are bad, or if it just kind of works out that way because, for whatever reasons. But this one I find to be a little bit this one I find to be close to I guess it's not. So if you can get the Envision off, then this card is card advantage. So in that sense, it's actually not that bad now that I think about it. It's just the thing that's kind of scary is like, if you put this in your deck, you better have ways to exile it, because at face value, it's so weak. And even at the Envision cost, it's pretty weak. So like, it is card advantage, but it like doesn't seem like the type of card you would want to put in your deck, even even if you're making like the exile deck, you know what I mean? But who knows? I mean, we've only seen 2 cards from the set, so yeah, I'm gonna bump this. No, I'm gonna keep this one at a 6 out of 10 for all the reasons that I've stated. But we'll keep our eye on the rest of the cards and kind of see what comes up. Also, where's the horse? Where's the horse? Where's the horse, guys? All right, let me help you out, Cavalry Mystic. All right, we're gonna go ahead and just give you a nice friendly horse here. All right, there we go. All right. Give you a nice friendly horse. There you go, and a nice tail. Oh yeah, that's a nice horse. I'll give you a little bit of a mane, you know. Put some eyes. Make them happy. There you go. Now we got a Cavalry Mystic. All right, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys next time.